Hello, so today's video is a perfume declutter. I have just reached breaking point with the number of fragrances that are scattered all across my house. I'm not the tidiest person in the world anyway, but I don't have a dedicated filming room. I film on my sofa in my living room, as you might have already worked out. And I also don't have a dedicated perfume room. I don't have shelves with storage. I don't put them in colour order or, I just don't have the space in my house for that kind of thing. So there's really a limit on the fragrances that I can actually physically keep and store. But also, I don't want a large collection of fragrances. There's absolutely no point in having rooms and rooms of fragrances that you never ever get round to wearing. Ultimately, for me, and everyone's different, for a collection is around 100 fragrances. That's really where I'd like to get back to. And I'm pretty sure if I didn't have a perfume channel, I would have a much smaller collection than I do now. But this video is really just telling you the fragrances that I'm letting go of and telling you why. But a lot of these are things that I've received in PR. And when you receive fragrances in PR, you don't necessarily know exactly what you're getting. And also, obviously, you haven't chosen those fragrances. You're more likely not to enjoy them, and they're more likely not to be things that you would have personally chosen. So you know me, I don't use affiliate links. I've got no interest in selling you things. So if I don't like something, I just tell you. And if you see me review a fragrance, say it's not for me, and then you never see it on my channel again, the likelihood is that that fragrance will be decluttered at some point. And I think you will probably be able to tell if you do watch my channel which fragrances might be going in this declutter. So I'm going to declutter around, I think it's around 11, maybe 12 fragrances in this video. And I really feel like I could probably declutter a few more, but let's just stick with this because I'm quite a cautious person and I don't like to get rid of too many at once. I like to have a little bit of a purgatory for my fragrances first. So let's see which ones are leaving my collection today. So the first fragrance has already left my collection, and this one was Valentino's Donna Born in Roma Ivory. So this fragrance was gifted to me in PR, and really this fragrance was just something that I found to be very crowd pleasing, very easygoing. It's really a fluffy, vanillic, sweet fragrance. It's something that a lot of people I think would at least like, if not some people would love. But for me, this is something that I would never have bought for myself. It just isn't my type of fragrance at all. And it really made me think of other fragrances in the L'Oreal family. So it made me think of YSL Black Opium fragrances. So particularly Black Opium Glitter, but also a little bit of Black Opium Intense. The mid of Black Opium Intense is very like parts of Donna Born in Roma Ivory. So Donna Born in Roma Ivory, if you haven't tried it, it starts out quite citrusy, and then it dries down into a fluffier feeling, musky, white feeling vanilla. Something creamy and white feeling in the dry down, but also with a touch of orange blossom. And there's also something that I think might be cashmere in there. It's not listed, but there definitely is a density to the fragrance in the dry down, which I think may be cashmere. It just wasn't me. It was something that I think I wore once or twice after I reviewed it, and it just didn't ever make me feel like me. And when a fragrance doesn't feel like you, there's absolutely no point in persisting with it, because fragrances are meant to celebrate you, aren't they? They're meant to make you feel more you than normal, not make you feel like a totally different person. So I think for me, this one just had to go. So that's Donna Born in Roma Ivory. So the next two have also already left my collection, and I did discuss these when I talked about the fragrances that have come into my life in 2026. These two I won in a giveaway, and these were both from Kylie Minogue's brand. So these were celebrity fragrances, and the first one was called Lover's Fleur and the second one was called Lover's Noir. And they just, again, weren't for me. I did make a review video of these, and I think I said in that video that Lover's Fleur made me think of the safest feeling fragrance, that if you were designing a very generic feeling fragrance that most people would enjoy, you would make Lover's Fleur. It's just something that is a tropical feeling, slightly coconutty, ambery floral fragrance, but it just had terrible lasting power. I would say maybe maximum 2 hours on my skin and really fading within an hour. And also, it really made me think of another fragrance that I used to own and have perhaps moved on from, which was Signorina Ribelle by Salvatore Ferragamo. I did really like that fragrance at the time, but I just feel like my taste has moved on, and I don't think I wanted something that's not as good as that fragrance to replace that fragrance. So the second fragrance, Lovers Noir, I was actually amazed that it wasn't marketed towards men. I'm not really sure who that fragrance is aimed at, but it's definitely not aimed at me. I did find it a lot more interesting than Lovers Fleur though. So Lovers Noir is a lavender and herbal feeling fragrance. It's musky, it's creamy and it's woody, and it dries down into quite a powdery, dense feeling tonka and vanilla fragrance. Again, there's a really dense powderiness here, and I think that must be the cashmere. In the final dry down, it's sweet, it's spiced, it's slightly herbal, and there's also some tonka there. Lovers Noir really did make me think of when you've used a green or a blue shower gel. It had that similar kind of feel to it, but just with a lot more powderiness because of the cashmere. It just wasn't something that I felt like I wanted to wear, and I did offer it to my husband, and he was like, well, it's okay. You know, you could tell that his heart wasn't in accepting it, so I did pass this one along. So that's Kylie Minogue's Lovers Fleur and Lovers Noir. So next up are some fragrances that I randomly found in my garden, because the PR company that deal with Grenado fragrances do not always tell you, in fact, most of the time they don't tell you at all, when they're sending something. So I just happened to find this soaked parcel in my garden one day, and inside was this package. It's a little tin, very pretty tin with, I think it's a leopard on it, and inside are 8 of Grenado's fragrances, and I already did own full bottles of some of these. So I already own a full bottle of Citrus Basilis, which I really love, and I also own a full bottle of Apotecario, which I appreciate, but I don't think is necessarily me. I think that's more something for other people. It's just not particularly me, because it's quite a sweet, leathery fragrance. So the others, I was kind of excited to try, because, you know, I'd had one that I really like and one that I'm not too fussed by, but I don't think is a bad fragrance. I thought maybe I'm going to really enjoy the rest of this range. I tried them all and my heart sank, and I just didn't want to make a video about these, and I still haven't made a video about the other 6 of these because they're just not for me. And the reason for that is Grenado use some really, really strong super ambers that I just find a little bit much. I just cannot deal with wearing fragrances that have really heavy, strong super ambers, woody ambers in them. And the worst of these for me was the one that I was most looking forward to trying, which is the vanilla fragrance, Esplendor, which is that one. I was so looking forward to trying that fragrance, and I sprayed it on and I got like a few seconds of enjoyment, and then the woody amber hit, and then that was it. I just had to scrub it off. They really do turn my stomach when they've got a really strong super amber in. I'm not exaggerating. And that's how I feel about some of the fragrances in this set. Some are not as bad as others, for sure. So the one that I think everybody seems to like is Bohemia. So Bohemia, I can see that if you like sort of shaving cream kind of smells, and if you like leathery fragrances, and if you like spiced fragrances, you might really like that one. I did also try Fervo Intense on a fragrance tray, and I think I wore it once, and it just wasn't me. I like the idea of it. It's a kind of nutty feeling, slightly boozy feeling fragrance. I like the idea of it, but actually the reality of it is just not something that appeals to me quite so much. And then Rosa Sublime I tried, and it just felt like it was a bit of bait and switch. I was expecting like a really nice fresh feeling rose, and it just wasn't that. It had saffron, and that just completely ruined it for me. But also there's just something there in that fragrance that I just don't like, and I just couldn't stand to wear that one. That one got scrubbed off as well. So, you know, it just didn't feel like a video that I wanted to make, where I went through all of these fragrances and said, I only really like this one. And, you know, I think this one's good, but it's not for me. It just did feel like something that I wanted to talk about in detail. And I'm sure that Grenado probably didn't want me to talk about in detail either. But, you know, I don't like making negative videos. I don't like talking about fragrances that I don't like in general. But I think if you are sensitive to super ambers, Grenado fragrances, you have to be really careful. You cannot blind buy these because you just don't know when one's going to hit. Sometimes amber is not even listed in the note listings, and they still strike me as something completely overpowering. So yeah, I would definitely be careful with Grenado fragrances. The ones that I do actually like from Grenado that I've tried are for sure Citrus Basilis and also Madreperola. I think is a lovely fragrance. But again, Madreperola has a big hit from some cashmere, which again is very trendy at the moment. You may have heard me talk about cashmere excessively in this video already. But I think if you are sensitive to cashmere, Madreperola might not be for you either. But I really like Madreperola, and I'm usually quite sensitive to cashmere. So yeah, Grenado, just a minefield, I would say. So that's why these are going. So the next fragrance is actually one that I've got relatively recently in PR, and it's just something that kind of annoys me because it's so close to something that I think I would really enjoy. But there's just one little niggly note that just makes me kind of think that actually, no, this isn't for me. And just how close this is so frustrating because it's really by a perfumer that has made one of my favourite fragrances ever. And I was so excited to receive this because I thought, oh, maybe this is going to be the fragrance that replaces my discontinued Marc Jacobs Lola. Maybe this is a fragrance that I continue to wear throughout my life to make me think of that time in my life. And it just isn't. So this one is Rose Noir by L'Objet Parfums. And I have to say, I don't think there's anything wrong with this fragrance. I think it's a good quality fragrance. I just don't think I'm geranium's biggest fan. And the geranium here ruins this for me. This for me just has a bit too much of that peppery, green, slightly furry, earthy feel to it. And there are points in this fragrance, especially in the mid, where the rose really dominates and I get all excited and I think, oh, I'm going to like this, I'm going to like this. And then it dries down. And then I get the geranium back again. And it's just really annoying. Every time I wear this, I'm annoyed because it's just the same. And I have to kind of let it go that this is not going to be the rose fragrance that I want it to be. But it was so close. So yeah, Rose Noir, really long lasting. So I did review this, but it's basically a dark feeling Middle Eastern style rose fragrance. It's a dry spice tea fragrance with rose. But there's also that geranium there, so that adds the pepperiness and also the earthiness and the greenness as well. But also in this fragrance, there's a slight heat at the beginning, which is actually quite an interesting touch. I did quite enjoy that feeling at the beginning. But yeah, the dry down, it just is lots and lots of geranium. If you don't like geranium, you're not going to enjoy this fragrance. And sadly, I'm afraid that's me too. So that's L'Objet Parfums Rose Noir. So that's the final fragrance in this video. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you like my honesty about which fragrances I'm decluttering, even if they are PR. There are just sometimes fragrances that just aren't for you, and that's not something that anyone can help, especially when you're sent things to review. Then you're not going to like all of them. It's just not something that's possible. But if you have enjoyed this video, then please do press the like button, and please also consider subscribing if you haven't done already. And also, if you are decluttering, which fragrances have you decluttered recently? I'd love to hear which fragrances haven't worked out for you. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.